A woman from prosperous neighborhood was found in her own home under strange circumstances. Detectives couldn't find any clues, and it seemed they wouldn't be able to solve the case. But soon a call to the police completely changed the course of the investigation. Thanks to just one truly unique and unusual lead, they managed to uncover the unexpected truth. Katie Blair was born on May 31 in 1961 in California. She had loving parents as well as a brother and sister. From childhood, she showed a genuine interest in creativity and loved singing the most. This passion led her to pursue a career in music. She enrolled at the University of Texas in the Vocal Arts department and moved to Austin. After graduating, Katie worked as a music teacher and became the director of Christian choir. She loved her job, and her students were delighted by her dedication to music. Later, Katie was married twice, but both marriages ended in divorce. She had 2 children, a son and a daughter, and raised them alone. In 2013, at the age of 52, Katie moved to a new house in a quiet and safe suburb of Austin. She had long dreamed of a home that met all her criteria, and she finally found the perfect place. By then, her children had grown up and moved out, and Katie continued her work in music and the choir. In December of the following year, her son Joe came to visit. At the time, he was 23 and serving in the military. He was about to be deployed to a new location and decided to stay with his mother beforehand. On December 5th, Joe went out to meet friends and returned home around noon the next day. He entered the house and called for his mother, but there was only silence. He checked several rooms until he reached the bedroom, where a heartbreaking sight awaited him. Katie lay next to the bed in a pool of blood. Joe immediately realized she was dead. He ran outside and called the police, then waited for the investigators. They confirmed that the woman had been dead for at least several hours, and the amount of blood made it clear it was a murder. While medical examiners studied the body, the police began inspecting the crime scene. First, they noticed that the drawers of a large jewelry box were scattered on the floor. Apparently, the killer had taken the jewelry, so detectives considered robbery as the primary motive. However, the robbery motive seemed questionable. First, the perpetrator didn't take any other valuables, including the victim's laptop and phone. Everything in the house was in its place, with no signs of the killer searching for other items. Second, nighttime robberies were rare for obvious reasons. Criminals usually broke into homes during the day when residents were at work. Moreover, the neighborhood was considered one of the safest in the city, and such crimes almost never occurred there. Another odd detail was that the killer seemed to have murdered Katie first, and then searched for jewelry. This was evident from the marks on the drawers and other areas of the bedroom. Thus, the attacker must have assaulted the woman as soon as they entered the bedroom. Additionally, detectives found no signs of forced entry at the front door, but discovered that the back door was unlocked. Katie's son later mentioned that she often left it open. Based on this, the police began to suspect that the robbery might have been a cover-up and that the killer had intended to murder Katie from the start. In that case, they theorized he might have known the victim and been aware that she left the back door unlocked. However, forensic experts couldn't find any clues to identify the perpetrator. He left no fingerprints or DNA traces. The only evidence was a petrol bloody shoe print in the victim's bedroom. Medical examiners determined the case of death was multiple stab wounds, and there were also signs of strangulation. They found no evidence of assault, which reinforced the killer's motive. The police then turned their attention to people in Katie's circle who might have wished her harm. First, they scrutinized her son as he had a hypothetical opportunity to commit the crime. However, his alibi checked out. He had spent the entire night with friends. Next, they interviewed Katie's friends and colleagues but found no leads. Everyone claimed she never quarreled. Everyone claimed she never quarreled with anyone and dedicated most of her life to the choir. Soon, however, detectives learned something interesting. Several of the victim's friends mentioned that Katie had often spoken about her second ex-husband, from whom she had divorced before the incident. According to her, their separation was far from amicable, and the man had continued to stalk her. She had even expressed concerns for her safety and asked friends not to reveal her new address to him. Detectives discovered that the man lived near Austin and went to question him. From the first moments of the conversation, his behavior raised suspicions. When the police informed him of his ex-wife's death, he immediately asked, "Was she shot?" Then he claimed he had been resting in his RV that night and allowed investigators to search it without a warrant. They found no evidence linking him to the crime and left empty-handed. They didn't rule him out as a suspect, but, lacking any leads, continued their search. A few days later, a friend of Katie's contacted the police with a strange story. She and other close acquaintances had organized a memorial ceremony for Katie, and a man none of them recognized attended. During the event, he stood up and delivered a eulogy, but his behavior and words seemed suspicious. First, no one knew him, even though all attendees were close friends of Katie. Second, his speech revealed he knew nothing about her, as his words didn't match reality. Detectives interviewed all of Katie's friends, and one recalled seeing the man before. He worked as a sales clerk at a local women's clothing store. The police questioned him, and the man admitted he hadn't known Katie. He claimed he had seen news of her murder, felt sad, and decided to attend the memorial. Despite his odd explanation, detectives found nothing connecting him to the crime and moved on. Days passed until another unexpected twist occurred. A man named Rob called the police, saying he had something interesting to show them. He was a hunter, and his rifle was equipped with a thermal imaging camera. Eager to test it, he had gone out on the night of December 6th and headed toward a wooded area on the edge of his neighborhood. As he walked, a car drove slowly past him, stopped on the roadside, and a man got out and walked toward one of the streets. Later, Rob saw news of Katie's murder and remembered the man had walked in the direction of her house. He reviewed the footage from that night and found the man recorded leaving the car. Detectives were intrigued, but there was a major problem. The thermal camera only captured the man's silhouette, making identification impossible. However, they noted key details. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and had an unusual gait. The car was also visible, and police hoped to identify its make and model. They compared the silhouette's height and build to their suspects, but neither matched. Their cars also didn't fit the one in the footage. This left detectives back at square one. For the next few days, they searched for new suspects and analyzed the thermal footage but made no progress. Then on December 15th, a caregiver called the police after finding an elderly couple dead in their home. The front door was wide open, with clear signs of forced entry. Inside, the couple lay in a pool of blood in their bedroom. Medical examiners determined they had suffered multiple stab wounds. Notably, the drawers of their jewelry box were scattered, and all the jewelry was missing, while no other valuables were taken. Detectives couldn't ignore the striking similarities to Katie's murder. From the start, they considered the possibility of the same perpetrator. The couple's house was near Katie's. Both crimes occurred at night, and the killer emptied the jewelry boxes after the murders. However, this theory raised new complications. Initially, detectives believed Katie's killer had a personal motive and focused on her acquaintances. Now they considered that the three murders might have been committed by someone who didn't know the victims but selected them for unclear reasons. They searched for connections between the couple and Katie but found none, no mutual acquaintances, shared locations, or hints of familiarity. Ultimately, detectives conclude they were dealing with a serial killer and needed to catch him before he struck again. Police re-interviewed the victims' acquaintances, urging them to share even minor details. One of Katie's friends recalled that months before the murder, Katie had mentioned an unpleasant interaction with a worker hired by her landlord for repairs. According to Katie, he did a poor job and behaved strangely. Detectives contacted the landlord and obtained the worker's number. His name was Timothy, and investigators began checking his background. They learned his brother worked at the church the elderly couple attended, and Timothy had also visited. They also discovered Timothy had a long criminal history, multiple thefts, often targeting jewelry. At the time, he was on parole and living in a hotel. Police questioned Timothy, who agreed to talk but refused to let them into his room, suggesting they speak in the parking lot. At first, he claimed not to remember Katie, but after hearing more details, he recalled doing repairs at her home. He denied involvement in her murder and provided an alibi. He had worked at night shift at a store that day. During the conversation, officers noted Timothy didn't match the silhouette from the thermal footage. He was much shorter, and his car didn't match the one in the video. They left without evidence. But the situation took an unexpected turn. When they called Timothy's boss to verify his alibi, they learned he had been fired a week before Katie's murder and couldn't have worked that night. Detectives returned to the hotel, but Timothy was gone. His wife let them search the room, where they found a receipt from a local pawn shop dated the day of Katie's murder, showing Timothy had sold several jewelry items. Police went to the pawn shop and confirmed the jewelry belonged to Katie. Surveillance footage showed Timothy arriving in a car that wasn't his. They soon discovered the car belonged to his sister and matched the one in the thermal video. After obtaining a search warrant, forensic experts found traces of Katie's blood on the car's front seat and floor. Timothy was arrested and interrogated. Despite the evidence, he insisted on his innocence, repeating, "These hands didn't kill anyone." After hours of questioning, he finally admitted he knew who the killer was, a man named Sean. Detectives investigated Sean, a 30-year-old former science teacher with no criminal record who lived hundreds of miles from Austin. Despite the lack of direct evidence, they interviewed him. Sean admitted knowing Timothy and staying with him during the murders. At first, he claimed Timothy left alone the night of Katie's murder, but later confessed they had driven to her house together. Timothy returned with a bloody bag containing jewelry. Sean insisted he hadn't participated in the murder, but detectives noticed his gait matched the silhouette in the thermal footage. Under pressure, Sean admitted entering Katie's house alone to steal jewelry. He claimed she woke up and attacked him, prompting him to stop her. His confession and the shoe print matching the one in Katie's bedroom led to his arrest. However, linking Sean to the elderly couple's murder proved difficult. He refused to answer questions and requested a lawyer. Timothy was also arrested as an accomplice, as Texas law held him equally responsible for the crimes, even if he didn't directly participate. Timothy admitted driving Sean to both crime scenes, but claimed he stayed in the car. The thermal footage supported this, showing only one person exiting the vehicle. He was convicted of all 3 murders and sentenced to life without parole. Sean's trial was more complicated. His lawyer argued the confession was coerced and the evidence was circumstantial. The first trial ended in a hung jury, but a second trial resulted in a life sentence for Katie's murder. He was never charged for the couple's death, though detectives believed he was responsible. The case left unanswered questions. Detectives couldn't determine why Sean committed the murders, especially since he could have fled when Caddy woke up. They speculated Timothy targeted Caddy out of resentment for complaining about his shoddy repair work. As for the elderly couple, no motive was found. Ultimately, the thermal footage played a crucial role in convicting Sean. Without it, he might have escaped punishment. Both perpetrators were held accountable, but the case remained shrouded in mystery. Share your thoughts on this story in the comments, and don't forget to like this video. Thanks for watching.